Hello devs, welcome to today's tutorial. I'm going to be building a simple file uploader or file manager API. I will be utilizing the stack of man, though the frontend initially had built a sample of the project. I had initially built it with the Vue and Express. So I expect you to be having knowledge of Node, TypeScript, and a bit on streams of Nodejs. And so for the view will just be a showcase of the UI, but I will later on build a comprehensive UI for the API. So for now, I just had something to show. So I'll show you how it works. So for now, let's just load it up. So this is the front end. Okay, so when you load the front end, there will be this project. So the initial design had like separation of projects, but that one we can tackle later. So let's say tweets is a project and test is a project. So for every project there should be files under that project. So let's just see a demo of how we'll be able to upload. So this one is just so that you are able to see the files and able to test if the upload is working correctly. Also we have our database already here, and yeah, so it's currently having no data, so let's try with a test. So we'll go to test. Currently only images are supported, so if I click on these pictures, images, then select that, then upload. So probably just don't have the progress. Let me just try to reload. So when I reload, you can see this picture has been uploaded here. I will be able to build on this project. You can see the picture is here and the name is here. Just zoom in. So let me look for another project picture. Then let's say this one. Upload, select that, then upload. So you can see how fast it's uploading. Then yeah, so this is basically what we'll be building. I can also upload more images. Upload, then you can see this one also is here. We should be able to add more functionalities like view, download, and delete. So for now, let's go back home. So this one is for project test. If we go back home and come to tweets, you'll see tweets has no files. Then I can start uploading on tweets. Let's say someone is tweeting on that. Upload. So it was the reason why this one is behaving like this is because I didn't set up the auto navigate. So if I can just do another upload, then select, then upload. Yeah, then you can see. So based on the project, you'll be able to see different images based on the project you are in. So if you go back to home, if you go to test, you will be able to see only images on test, and if you go back to tweets, you'll only be able to see images that are of the tweets project. But this is not what we'll be building. This is just a showcase of how it will be working, but we'll be building more of folder based approach, and we'll add download functionality, upload, and even if possible we can add other more functionalities onto that. So whichever I will not have been able to create, you can be able to uh, try out to implement those features such as drag and drop and what have you, because I'll have a repo for this so that anyone can clone and have a look at what we are building. So enough with the showcase. So let's start a project, new project. So okay, so let's just close all these running ones. So I'll just fire up my terminal. For all my projects I'm using pnpm, so let me just navigate to desktop. Then I'll create a project known as file manager, then navigate to file manager. So from here I'll just create a backend, backend and frontend view. Just do the front end. So if I list, you can see I have backend and front end folders. Then I can just open VS Code in the backend because we are starting with the backend. Yeah, then this one is done. Yeah, so basically this is now what we are having, and I will build on everything from ground going up so that we'll be able to see what's possible with this API. So when starting a new Node.js project, you need to make sure you create something known as virtual environment, where you'll be able to install dependencies on that folder and manage. So we have package managers, that is the ones you use to download source code from npm or from online. We have yarn, npm and pnpm. Personally I prefer pnpm because it's relatively very fast, and I've used it for a while and it's really worth it. So for every project you're creating, what you'll do, you'll just run npm init -y. So that will create this file known as package.json, which will be containing the metadata of your application. So if I just remove that file, if I run pnpm init, it doesn't require anything, so but it will create the file again the same way -y for npm worked. So this will be carrying the metadata about our project. We'll be carrying our dependencies, scripts that will be running, and the name, version, a description. Just add here simple file manager backend. So now that is done, we'll need to set up our folders so that everything else works. By the way, I'm running on Node FNV. I'm running on Node 20. So for since Node 8 we had some watch features, but I'll be using TypeScript. So let me start by setting up a TypeScript environment. There's this utility package known as how do we call it? tsconfig.json. I'll just run pnpm npx tsconfig .json. So this one will create a tsconfig.json file for me, so I don't need to so I'll just choose on Node, which is the default. If you open it, then you'll see we have all this here. So another thing which I'll bring in here is let's create a config file. I like putting my configs in the root. Then I'll import path from path, and you'll see we get this error because there are no types. So I'll just node path, then from here we need to install dependencies that we are going to use. So I'll start with the dev dependencies. So npm install at types node. So those will be the types for Node.js, file system, and other modules. What else do we need? For now, let's go with just Node. So we don't need to install it like that. We need to install it as a dev dependency, add -d, so that because we'll only be using it in the development environment. So you can see it's now reading here. So I'll just create a variable here known as base directory, which will be path.resolve, then path.current c. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so it's process .cw. So this will get our current directory. Regardless of whether you are using Windows or not. So we'll now set up our config file, const config, which will be, so I like putting things in this way. I'll say db, then mongo, just add a mongo URI, URI is equals to, so it's an object, process.env dot mongo URI, or should just be that empty string. Then let's say paths, so we'll say base dir will be our base directory, our upload dir will be path dot join base dir. I'll join it with the uploads. So once you have this set up, I can just log config. So because we'll be working with TypeScript, we need something to run our TypeScript files, because Node doesn't run TypeScript files. I'll install a package known as tsnode. So tsnode will install, let's also install TypeScript. So once TypeScript is installed, then now we can, let's say, pnpm ts node config.ts. If I run it, you'll see that we have base directory will be our home, file manager backend, which is the root here, and uploads folder will be this one towards uploads. So that one is set up. That means if we'll be doing our uploads, files will be added into the uploads folder, which is at the root of our project. So that is done. So let's now get into we can just export default config. So the reason why I like putting it outside, so that I don't have these ones inside, so that I start moving outwards. So then after this, we can just, inside the include here, we need to add something like .node .config.ts. So we need to include this node.config.ts so that TypeScript can know its location, and you can see the error now is gone. Next, still setting up on TypeScript, I will need to okay, this one I might leave for some other time. So let's just set up, add our src, our source folder. So in here I'll have config folder inside src. So then we'll have our app, we'll have something known as setup, then we'll have our index.ts. Okay, so here what we'll need is so inside the setup, this is where we'll be adding everything pertaining to Express, middlewares, and what have you. So then we just export default function Express, let's call it Express setup. Then it will take an argument of let's say application. So this won't work as at now. So then what we'll need to do here, app, we can return app. Okay, then now we need to install iExpress. So once Express is installed, it won't work still, and then we need another package. We need to install types for Express. So once those types are installed, we can come here and import application from Express. Yeah, so then you can see so here we can also have our application, but I don't need this. What I wanted to put here is just a comment app bundler. So once this one is done, okay, so how will this flow? So setup will come to app, then from app we'll import it to index. Config will be for everything in our application. So let's finish up with the setup. So just say app.use express. So I'll import express.json. So app.use express.url encoded. Okay, URL encoded, extended, true. Then we'll install something known as Morgan for logging. Our requests. So import logger from Morgan. So we need types for Morgan. Types Morgan. So this should be installed as a dev dependency. So you can see it's added to dev dependencies here. Dev dependent types, mostly add the types here. So you can only see we have Express and Morgan. We also need something known as .env. So this one is for loading our environment variables. So we'll need it here in the node config. So import .env from .env. Then we'll just call it .env.config. So because it's in the root, we don't need to add anything. So it will be able to load our environment variables. Okay, so from here, let's go back to the setup. Then we'll just add app.use we'll use now our logger. Then we add format. Let's say we'll be using dev. Then we'll need cause. So I won't have much setup for cause, but This one is for the cross origin requests. Cause also need types for cause. Okay, you can see this, it's requesting for this. So then once it's there, you can just come back here and add app.use cause. This is not recommended, but I'll just origin, just put a star for now so that any request will be accepted. So from here we'll just add our so-called middlewares. Okay, so from here we'll come here to, or we may not necessarily need this, so let's come to index and import express from express, import http from http. We create a server equals to http dot create server, then we pass our const app is equals to express setup. We call express setup, then we pass our app, should be express now, so that will be instance of our application. So then we pass our app here. Instead of doing this, we can just take all of this, cut, paste in here to make this shorter, then come back to this and let's say add env, say port process.env port, or will be running on port let's say 8000. Then mode, let's say mode can be process.env.node-env, or it should be production. Let's just make it development. So from here inside the config, I'll just add index.js ts. Then in the index.ts we'll import config from node config. Then okay, so const export const is equals to config. So I'll just add db, then db config. So I'll rename all of them. We'll have env env to env config. Then we'll have paths. We make it path config. So when I come to my index here, I will just run server dot run dot listen on port env config dot port. Then we have a callback error. So if we have an error, then we can just say if error log error running up, then we add this error dot message, else log server running on http localhost colon port env config dot port. So here we'll just have error as any. Okay, maybe not. So seemingly this one takes no argument. That one is for express. So we'll just remove that, then eliminate this point. Format our code. No need for these. So that one works on express. For this node default, we don't have error, but we can have some listeners. So once this is set up, our app is ready to go, and to run our app we can just add so what we can do in our package.json, we'll have a dev script. So let's turn this to dev to ts node dot src index.ts. So this one will run our index.ts. We can just test here, run npm dev, then we'll see we get an error node.config. So come back here, yeah, so we have to go back that up to that level is when now it will be able to run. Now you can see we have our server up and running on this port. So let's say I change when I change something here, the config to 5000, you'll see our server won't change. So we need a way to reload this. I'll need to install a package known as nodemon. So this package, I'll use it to reload our server in case of any changes that we'll be making on our system. Then we'll need to create a nodemon.json. Then I will add this. This is just some script I have. So watch for all changes in the src folder for TypeScript files. Extension name is TypeScript. Ignore tests, node modules, and more tests. Delay of 3. Then I will be using ts node to execute. Then now we execute the index. So this exec part will be executing this point here. So we need to change this to nodemon, just nodemon. Then now if we run dev, then you can see it's now running in dev mode. So if I need to restart the server, I just write rs, then I press enter, then it will restart. If I come and change this to 8000, and because this one won't be affected, so I can just come here to nodemon.json, then I can add here node.config fig.ts, so that when I run it, it's able to detect changes here. So change it to 5, then you see it will now reload. You can just revert it to 8000. So this basically, as we've already reached here and our app is already running, and we need, how I usually set up my API, that I have something to catch all the routes in case we don't get any configured path, and an error handler. So what I'll do here, I'll just add a simple, let's say, so we'll add our routes here. This will be our point of adding routes. Then not found routes. I don't know whether it's routes or routes, whichever. Then we have our error handler down there. So routes, let's say we'll have our routes, then we'll just add index.ts, then we'll just import router from express, then export default app routes function. App routes, we pass our, okay, then I don't think we don't need any arguments there or parameters. We'll just read const router is equals to new router. So we return router. So what we'll do here, come to index, the setup, set up our routes app.use, let's say API v1, then we'll add routes app routes. So the reason why we have these errors is because of the config in TypeScript. So I'll just need to come and refactor these. So I'll be setting up module aliases. So for that we'll need a package known as ts. It's called TypeScript transform paths. called TypeScript transform paths, and another one known as typescript. So we'll install those two. Then once they are set up, we'll need to modify our tsconfig.json. Let's zoom out a bit. So just above here, we'll add this above the compiler options. Add that. For that, then types will be node under compiler options. Then next we need to add plugins. So these plugins are the ones that will help us do the, so we don't have this vytest, so we only have node types. Then down here we'll have paths. So paths, this we'll be using this to get our alias for the TypeScript paths. So then we need to guess from here everything should be okay. So let's see the error again. Then you can just replace this with setup and config. Save and reload, and so we have src routes. We change this to @routes, save, and our app should be running again. Okay, so that's now fixed. Then we should have let's say we should have some function to handle our unfound routes. So then we can use this. Okay, let's say route helpers.ts. Then we'll just have export function endpoint not found. Then we'll have express. So let's have a types folder here, index.ts. So from here I'll declare global types, export type app request. Then we'll just add key string of any. So it should be this is equals to, then we should have like export app next, export type app next is equals to next function. So this one needs to be imported from import next from express next function request and response. So this one will extend our request object and export type app response, which will be response type. So once all this is set up, I'll just need to come back here. So I'll take request app request response resp will be app response, next will be our app next, then it will be a function. What we need to do here is to just say obj const obj to return is equals to, let's say, status will be 405, then data will be null, let's say method will be request dot method, then message method not allowed. So then we just need to return res.json, then we pass our res, let's call it res obj. So I'll just prefix this with underscore so that it doesn't highlight it. So then we need to have our error handler export function app error handler, which will take request, we check error first, it takes error first, which will be of type any, request of type app request, response which will be of type app response, then next underscore next will be app next. So then we need to just if we can just log the error, in the request handler, then you can just add here format. Okay, use these ones, backticks. So error dot res dot message. So that should be okay. What you need to do is to just say const res obj will be status be 500 message error dot message, or we have internal server error. So this will just check if we have that message, then return the message, otherwise return this. So data will also be nothing, null. Then you'll have our method to be request.method. What you need to do here, just return res.json. So we'll dot status first, res obj dot status, then just json res obj. So we have this error handler and this endpoint not found handler. So then we need to load it to the setup. So we'll have app.all catch all routes, all endpoints, and the all here means we'll get all the HTTP methods being sent. Then star will capture every route, that's why it's being placed last. Then we just need endpoint not found, this one, we need to import it. Then error handler needs to be put at the last point. Okay, so app.use app error handler. So this is how it's loaded. So we use app error handler. So errors will be caught, any error thrown within the routes will be caught in the app error handler in case there is no catch for them at the top level. So let me just test here using Insomnia.